I can remember when I first met David, and it was right before I moved to Billings. I'm a North Dakota kid, and I was living there at the time, and Dave was down in Newtown, North Dakota for the same reason I was, and it was for a roller derby bout. Had a mutual friend that was playing, and oddly enough, I got to re-meet my wife like 10 years later. And I remember during that bout after the fact, David was there and just had that feeling of being drawn to him. And he walked up to me because he saw I was wearing a band T-shirt, and it was a Rymont Blue Band T-shirt. He goes, "Hey, I know that guy." And that moment right there, it was like that connection that you just can't deny. It's there. And music was that bind that would tie us together. And I mean, it continued the rest of our friendship. Him and I could talk about music till the cows came home. I mean, we could start talking about it in the evening and be talking about it the next morning. And then so many other things that we would talk about. I mean, he just had that way about him to bring up conversations that were infinite. And that's one of the things that I absolutely loved about him, was conversations about nothing and everything that felt like you were solving the world's problems. But like I heard somebody else say, you know, the way he could flip that perspective and make you think of it from a different way really helped me grow in my life and realize that not all things are as black and white and as simple as they appear. There's different sides that you can find if you just look deep enough. He was a bright, shining light, man, that I remember the first moment I saw him playing his mandolin, and I could just tell he was special. Not because he could play music, I could just see that light shining from him. And I remember from there, it just kept growing, that relationship. I've been in Billings for 8 years, and he's been a presence in my life that entire time. And it's crazy to say that you're gone. You're not ever fully gone. I feel your spirit right now, but I'll always cherish what we had. You were a great human being, such a beautiful soul that could talk to anybody. And you were always looking to make sure people were having a great time, that people were cared about and appreciated. And I just love you, brother. And I remember last Saturday, I was cleaning out my boys' belongings, having a hard time. Something you and I both went through and talked about. And I found that Christmas card of you and Michelle. And now looking back on it, I can say that was you telling me that you're okay. And if I can just share anything with anybody, it's just that, again, he was a bright, shining light. And anybody that got to come into contact with him knew that. Love you, brother.
Every time I went to the Graph local, he was always one of the first people to come say hi to me. And he always wore this just big smile on his face. And then we'd usually, sit down and have a conversation. He'd ask me if I was playing that night or not. And if I was, he would make sure that I had a spot there up on stage. Always. And he'd always be in the front row cheering me on if I got nervous. It was really cool to have somebody like that to encourage you all the time, no matter what. And I learned a lot from him, He was a freaking amazing mandolin player and just an overall all-around badass that, I don't know, I guess I got one regret, is that I didn't get to hang out with him enough.
So I remember the very first time I met Dave. I was bartending at Uber Brew. I just moved here 7 years ago. And he came in and got his normal tuna salad with, at the time it was a pink slip. And after I had got done waiting on him that day, he had told me, he goes, "You have a very bright spirit about you. You have something that a lot of people don't hold. He said, you have confidence and you feel good about yourself, and it's a great quality. You're just a great person." And I remember that first time meeting him, because no one's ever really said that to me before, and it really stuck. And then I met my husband and Adam, and that's when really things really started getting as far as relationship, friendship-wise with Dave. Every single time I saw Dave from that moment on that we met at Uber Brew, he always knew if there was something wrong with me, even if I tried to hide it. He always knew if I was upset, if I had some anxiety. He always knew, and he knew I couldn't hide it. And that made it really difficult to be his friend, because he could see beyond that. And he always just gave the best hugs. He didn't care what was going on in your life. He just always greeted you with a smile and the biggest hug that you've ever felt in your entire life. I will never, ever in my entire life forget all of the times he's come over for dinner, the times him and the guys would just practice in the jam room. I'd cook them all dinner. The road trips, the music he played. And those are things you can never, ever take away. And, with Dave's untimely death, it's made me really realize that I need to hug more. I need to love more, because tomorrow is not promised. And Dave, I know you're flying high up there with Jerry Garcia right now. And I love you, brother, and I miss those hugs.
I feel very fortunate to have gotten to know Dave over the past few years. We shared many good times together. He was a great mandolin player. He was a great person. He showed me a different way to think, different than anybody else that I've ever met before. And I don't think that I'm ever going to meet anybody again quite like Dave Cleaves. So I think that we're all lucky that we were able to be in his presence. Dave provided a different point of view. He knew, well, he taught me that everything is about perception. The way that you look at things. And, I met him during when things were just rolling in his life. I remember I'd only known him for a few days, and he let me come backstage, and he just invited me backstage at a satsang show, sold out show, and just was like, "Come on in and hang out for a little bit." And it was just amazingly welcoming at all levels. And then I remember when he went through a dark time in his life, and I worried about him a lot, and always tried to make sure everything was all right with him. And because he was like my guru, and he had brought me a positive perspective, and if I could bring that back to him, it worked for both of us. It helped both of us. I remember him cruising up. He always would just cruise by our house to see if we were out front, or hell, he'd just come on in. He knew he was welcome. And but there's nothing better than standing out in the front yard and seeing Dave come rolling around the corner on a little scooter, and waving and smiling, and then you get the huge hug. And he always made time for everybody. Like, it was just, hey, I know the thoughts in his head. I'm just gonna ride by Adam and Amy's house and see if they're home, and then we can chat for a few hours. And that's exactly what happened. And I loved those times. Like, that was how David rolled. Like, he was, forget about any of the kind of needs for social media with Dave Cleaves. He grew up in a different time when you didn't need that, and he was pure like that. He just wanted to talk to you and hug you, and I'll miss all of that so very much. I'll miss the jams and just the company. He was a special person.
This is the first chance I've had to sit and breathe since David passed. Haven't prepared what I was going to say. I have no idea. It was an honor to know him in life, and it was an honor to handle the process of his passing. David was a kindred spirit with me. We both have spent our lives in music and creating and promoting, and in all of this I had one brief moment of clarity. I remember standing on the shore of the Yellowstone River and David saying to me, I wish this place had a bluegrass festival. And I agreed, and we talked about it, but we really didn't think about it much more. But David was loved hugely in life, probably more than he realized. And I was shown exactly how much David was loved when he passed away, and everybody poured out what they could and poured out their love and allowed us to handle his final expenses and take care of our friend. He was our family. He brought us all together in a weird way. We're all connected. All the artists, the misfits, the orphans, the musicians, the poets. He made us all connected through him. Kind of a 6 points of separation, but 1 point of separation through David. And in that way, he's made this community tighter in his passing. I want to honor David's legacy, and so I'm creating a bluegrass festival in David's honor. We're going to call it Cleaves Fest, and we're looking at the first weekend, the first Saturday in August every year, and we're in talks with having it at the zoo. Bluegrass on the zoo grass. So if you love David, please support this idea. We'll be doing some fundraising and stuff leading up to it. And if you're interested in playing, please contact me. I know all musicians love David, but what he truly wanted was a bluegrass festival. Anyway, I love David in life, and I will miss him forever, and he's left a hole in our community in the cultural scene that I just don't think anybody can fill. Love you, David.
Well, Dave, I'm not really sure where to begin here. I'm really going to miss all our late night conversations over, whatever fine whiskey we decided to drink that night. You taught me a lot about life. I learned quite a bit from you, and I'm really going to miss those conversations we had. I'm going to miss watching you and Connor jam out and practice for your next session or, what have you. It's a real honor to know you, and just wanted you to know I'm going to miss you. I'm good.
David Cleaves. I'm trying to remember when we met David. I want to say it was 2017.
I wasn't even
When
born at that time.
you were 4 years old,
What?
and we did the Heal documentary over at the Alberta Bear. I remember that's I'd heard about Dave before, and that's kind of how we ended up connecting. He came out to see that documentary, and that sparked a whole, holy moly, 3-4 years of friendship. I think it started by, even Dave, every time he would come over, he was always really good with Taj. I think that's the first thing that really hit me, that I connect with people a lot on, is when they're mindful and aware and conscious of kids and children and the importance of that. And that was something that hit right off the bat every time he'd visit. What did he bring you?
Well, just a lot of crystals
Yeah.
for now.
Every trip he would come out and bring him another crystal, and he would teach Taj about the crystal and the importance of it and specific energies and how we have energy. And yeah, we had a pretty deep friendship because of that. And it's really, really weird that he's gone right now. And it's I've actually just lost my dad 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago. And something different with Dave. I guess we've lost a lot of people in the last couple of years and last few years, and something's different about Dave. There's just not this sadness. Of course, I miss him, and I keep thinking he's still just gonna give me a call and roll over and hang out for a little bit, and our our random meetings and deep talks. I mean, it's just that part, I guess, is a little strange, but I never really met anybody that was so connected to the magic of life, I guess you could say, so like it's not really that sad inside. I don't feel that. I feel like he's still with us, and I couldn't think of anybody else that'd be more prepared to move on than him. He was so secure and so understanding the love and the light. I mean, the guy was like the embodiment, the personification of all those things, and really amazing guy. What do you remember about Dave? You probably don't remember too much when you were littler. What's your last memory? Do you remember the last time we seen Dave?
Well, I remember seeing him go over to the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then,
It's been a
I
minute.
haven't seen him.
Yeah. And it had been about a month since we'd seen him. I think the last time was a little bit before he wrecked on his scooter. So when I got the call that something was up, that was the first thing that came to my mind, that he was scooting around on that scooter. But sounds like he went really peacefully the way he should. And he has really passed a lot on to a lot of people in this, right here in Billings, and I'm sure many other places too. It was really amazing to see how many people spoke up, how many people Dave actually knew, and really changed everybody's life. Everybody has the same exact feeling about him, and that's a real special thing that's not very common. We're going to miss the guy. Dave, we're going to miss you. It's so weird, but I know you're all around us, and that gives me peace. You want to say anything else, mister? Love you, Dave.
Love you.
We're going to keep doing the things that you told us about, and thank you for all the love.
Hi, friends of David Cleaves. This is George. I'm standing here in front of some rocks of mine, and I'm not doing that to show you my rocks, but I'm doing it to show you some stuff about David. David loved rocks, as you know, and in particular, he really liked quartz crystals. And this isn't a quartz crystal, but it's a gypsum crystal, right? And when I sold the brewery, we started playing backgammon. Now, we had known each other for a long time, mostly through work and whatnot, chit-chatting. But after I sold the brewery, we started playing backgammon. And what I would do, and he loves backgammon. So if anybody wants to honor David, find a backgammon board and learn how to play. Anyway, I would take gypsum crystals and put them on the board facing him, pointing to him, kind of different angles around the board. And they would be kind of a hex that would, supposed to make him nervous or whatever else and make him lose. But he would say I was an idiot. We'd laugh about it, but he was just a fun guy that way. He didn't take gaming too seriously, but loved to play and win or lose. And I guess if there's one other little tidbit of history or interest is I actually saw him when he first moved to town, because he doesn't disappear in a crowd very easily, right? But he attended the Great American Taxi concert at the brewery, one of them, if not the first one we had. And, I saw him there. And it was at least a couple of years later when I met him, a year or two, whatever it was, that he had told me that he was at that concert. And I said, yeah, I saw you there. Just a little piece of information. I miss David a lot, just like everybody else.
Oh, David. Beardo became like a brother to me real quick. And I think that's maybe why it's hard to recall when we actually first met. Because it kind of feels like he was always a part of my life, or at least should have been. Sure as plenty of times I could have used David Cleaves and his wisdom. The love and encouragement that he shared with everyone. It was just so warm. You could wrap yourself up in it like your favorite sweater, and it made you feel comfortable. I was thinking it makes you feel comfortable as I imagine those baggy corduroy pants he always wore were. He just exuded that. Playing music with him was the same way. It was comfortable, like we'd been doing it forever. He made it so comfortable that singing on stage didn't seem like a ridiculous idea. I hadn't thought of ever doing that again. We had so much fun, whether it was Christian and Sarah's wedding band or Yellowstone Howard, acoustic Sunday sessions. David always wanted the best for everyone around him. He wanted them to succeed. He wanted the best for everyone because that would be best for everyone. And that's kind of just how he thought of things. It was nice. I could be a prick, and sometimes it was really good to have the counterbalance. I think that was kind of his idea behind Acoustic Sunday Sessions, was he wanted a place where people could succeed. Like any musicians, whether they be virgins or veterans, could get up on stage and succeed and feel comfortable. That and free beer. He definitely liked the free beer. I would, when I was playing with him, if I ever got lost, lost a line or missed a chord, I'd just look over at him and he'd give that little smile and a twinkle in his eye, and then just noodle away on his mandolin, and I'd know everything was going to be all right. And I'm going to miss playing with him a lot. And I'm going to miss his hugs. And when I think back on the fun we had, and I look at all of the amazing people I've met, and the friendships I have because of him, it's kind of like one of those hugs. So David, wherever you are, I hope you're comfortable, like a favorite sweater. I love you, brother.